Southern Extreme TV. I'm on the lake hunting some public ground. It's muzzleloader season, and we've got this afternoon, probably going to lose tomorrow because of the rain, and then one more day of muzzleloader, and then opening weekend of rifle comes. So we've got some time to hunt, put some miles in. This afternoon we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to scurry up, not too far away from where we're going to be hunting, but hopefully a good little transition between two ridges that deer should like to travel. So I'm gonna pack the camera up, get the gun and everything together. I've got a little bit of a finagle to get, back off in there. We're gonna walk this gully all the way up essentially. So get everything packed up, loaded up. It's a beautiful afternoon. It's 50 degrees. It's gonna drop down into the 40s tomorrow morning. It's gonna be raining, but it's gonna be cold. So it's not raining too bad. We might try to get back out, but it just depends on what's going on. So let's get everything loaded up. Let's go see if we can shoot one. Up here, it's not a far walk at all, but it's a pretty tough walk. I'm setting up in to be honest with you, I'm setting up in a spot that's a little questionable to me. Mainly because I think that these deer are bedded back here on this left side or up in front of me from probably my 12 o'clock. Probably from my 12 o'clock back to my 7. And I think that those deer are probably going to work up this ridge to kind of work across the edge. There's some little short pines up here in front of me that create a little bit of an edge that I think is going to be really good. I'm hoping my shots are going to be right here. It's a little thick here in comparison to what some of the higher elevation stuff looks like. But I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing, because I think that that's where the bulk of these does are bedding at, and I think that these bucks are kind of hanging just somewhere close by to where the does are at. I'm trying to just get my nest made right now. It's not the most comfortable tree that I have ever picked to set against, but what I do like about it is I've got good shoulder coverage for anything that comes off my flanks. I don't think anything's going to come from my right. I could be wrong on that. I think if they come from behind me, they're going to want to kind of filter on this little hillside working. I don't know if y'all can see through these trees, but there's like a little edge of pines. And I can see these deer just kind of working that edge and going on up to either higher elevations to feed, or vice versa, coming down off those higher elevations, coming off down into this to feed at nighttime. I've got a good ridge system that ties. Basically, I'm on a ridge. There's another ridge over there. I can't really shoot it because it's so thick, but I can see. And that ridge meets my ridge right here. And at the top of this, there's a thick edge of pines. So it's a great place for those deer to come back and forth, checking for does. And then they can drop right off into this little funnel. There's a little drainage that drops down, and they can go on over to the next couple of ridges as well. So I think it's a real good travel corridor. I found one scrape on the way in. It wasn't a fresh scrape. It wasn't just freshly done. But I don't think that that's a huge deal. I think that just means that there's deer in this area that are moving around and working. with the amount of time that I had left. So we're going to hang tight right here, and maybe we'll get lucky on the first afternoon. We're going to try doing a little rattling. We've got the sun that's starting to get kind of low, which is a good thing because that will affect the way and how good a deer can see. They're just like, they're just like us in low light conditions. I mean, they're better, but when you have sun casting shadows in specific ways, it can mess with them, which is a good thing. Plus, I've got this kind of thick blowdown right here that runs all the way behind me, and all these blowdowns up here. So I'm basically forcing all the deer to come on these outside edges of me, which is perfect. So let's do some rattling, see if we make something happen. I'll start out with a snort wheeze. On the ground scratching leaves. It's about as realistic of a fight as you can have if one's close by. So now what we need to do is we need to be ready. Basically, all we're trying to mimic right there is a buck running in and out of these little bedding areas, running up on a buck that's bedded with a doe that's hot, and they get into a tussle and fight it out. And what we're hoping is that a mature buck, or not even a mature buck, but a 3-year-old buck, maybe even a good genetic 2-year-old buck, will hear that's not bedded with a doe and say, I need to go see what they're fighting about. If a mature buck's got a doe bedded with him, then he may get up off his bed and just look down in here, but he's not really going to want to leave that doe. The biggest thing with rattling too is as soon as you do it, you need to be ready, because those deer are coming in on high alert, and 9 times out of 10 they know, typically within about a 10 or a 15 yard radius of where you're at. So reaching around, grabbing your gun, grabbing your bow, all that stuff goes out the window whenever they just pop up right on top of you. And this is a great place for one to do it. But using the contour of the land to our advantage, to where they have to come and show themselves to be able to see where we're at. They can't just lay back there in the bushes and, look across a 400-yard field and see that there's no deer out in the field. Which is why this right here can be super effective. But the timing just has to be spectacular for it, and I don't know if it is. I think some of these bugs might be locked down. I hope not, but we're gonna find out, I guess. I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. It sounded like it might have been on this ridge to my right. It was kind of echoing. It's like a little bit of a bowl here, so it was echoing a little bit all around me. I couldn't really tell anything about it. But I haven't heard it. I've not heard anything recently, so it could have been just a couple squirrels that were running in sync. But the sun has just now went down. I bet the temperature has dropped. Probably 5 or 6 degrees. And that's a good thing. It's 4 o'clock. Really and truly, we're supposed to have it's about 15 after 4. We're supposed to have about an hour, 45 minutes of shooting light left, but I don't think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get about an hour out of this spot. It's not that the sun has officially set, it's just that it's down behind the trees because of how steep this ridge system is. I do feel good about this little spot. I feel like if a deer is going to travel in the daylight on the bottom half of this ridge system, then this is probably the little connecting point that they're going to use to travel. Now, I mean, they could be just right over the knoll into that thicker stuff where I can't get a shot, but I don't know. It's got a good feeling in the air tonight. The rut is, I think, in this area a couple days, maybe a week away from just blowing the lid wide off. But man, I could just so easily see a deer walking across this ridge, across the top. But we need some good luck. There's a lot of land here, a lot of woods, a lot of places these deer can be. We gotta find the right little section. Alrighty guys, good morning. It is 2 days later. Yesterday, it rained all day long. You might be able to hear some of the raindrops still falling around us. But these next 3 days, it's going to be beautiful. Today's the last day of muzzleloader season. So I've got the smoke pole with me. And then tomorrow and Sunday is opening rifle. I'm in a new spot that I've never been to. I went in completely blind. And I'm trying to work my way down. There's a bunch of these drainages that come together and they form a big bowl that is kind of unlike any of the other topography that's in this area or on this public. And there's a good bit, I ain't gonna say a good bit, but there's potential for there to be heavy hunting pressure up on that mountaintop. There's a main road that comes in, and the majority of people are gonna be walking in off the road, coming this way, which in my mind would push those deer that's up high, should push them down into this drainage. And we're to our right-hand side, which you can't see, but a pretty good ways away, there's a big no-hunt zone. So this kind of butts up next to it. We're probably 600 yards, maybe 700 yards from that. And those drainage just flow right into that no-hunt zone. So I think that it's a great place to for these deer to transition. It's a good place for these bucks to scent check for does midday. So we're in here all day. We're gonna take our time. I'm basically just working tree to tree right now, working my way down into this series of bottoms. And I've always got the ability, if I don't like the way that looks, I've got several feeder ridges that come down into that I can go up or shoot back up these gullies. This area is not crazy steep in comparison to some of the other areas that I've been hunting on this public, so the majority of it seems to be pretty not bad to get through and walk through. So we're just taking our time slip hunting right now. If I get to a spot where I want to sit down, then I'll pull the big camera and the tripod and stuff out, but for right now we're just slip hunting. There's no real way for me to film that by myself. But I'm going to try to bring you guys along as best I can, so keep those fingers crossed. See if we get something down this afternoon or this morning. Well, we finally got to a spot that I think I'm going to spend a little bit of time at. It rolls a little funny right here, but I'm really intrigued by it because I've got some potential farther shots where I can see a lot more here. Not necessarily on my ridge, but all of these ridges just dump down into a bowl right here. I've got a good rub line back behind me. Sorry, y'all are a little foggy, but I've got a good rub line back here behind me where the deer are coming across the lower edges of these ridges. And I'm assuming they're just doing that, checking does. I hadn't found any scrapes, but I know that deer they've got to be living in this area. There's too much cover, bedding area, and a whole bunch of these. And I can see very, very fresh turkey sign from where they were feeding yesterday during the rain, which tells me that whatever they're feeding on is really fresh, and that should attract deer at some point in time. I think that this is one of those areas, which obviously any time during the rut, any time midday can be good, but I really think that this is one of those places that it could really happen between 11 and 2, because all these ridges come together, and there's probably a bunch of does that are coming back and forth up and down through here, and it's just a matter of which ridge they want to take. And those bucks will run perpendicular across them trails. So, a buck cruising, a buck chasing a doe, of the above would be fantastic. I did hear one gunshot that was on public. That was a deer that I could have potentially killed. It was probably on a crow's flight, probably 3/4 of a mile away. But that confirms my suspicion on some pressure coming in on these deer from that main road. And if I'm a betting man, that's pushed some of these more mature deer off down into these big hollers to get away from that pressure. And they definitely, if they have a doe hemmed up, this is the type area that I would think that they would want to have one. So we're gonna try to stay on our toes. I think we're pretty much settled in right here. I'm having a little hard time seeing over this blowdown that I thought I would be able to see to my right, so we may push just over the other side of this blowdown. And I think the only thing that I would be sacrificing is this kind of low side on my left, but I really don't think the deer are traveling on my ridge going that way. I think they're traveling on the other ridge, maybe that way, and then they're crossing my ridge. So that's the game plan. See if we can make it work. Alright, give y'all an update. Found a ladder stand, and we also found a hunter way back in there. Kudos to him, because he come in from the road. He didn't come in by boat, and he had a ladder stand with him, or not a ladder, a climbing stand. So if he shoots something off down in there, he deserves it, because that was a trek for me coming in by boat. I didn't necessarily like where the guy was setting, but back up kind of where I started this morning, I actually like it a lot. But the problem is there's no sign. There's no horn trees, there's no scrapes. I found 3 rubs. Now the 3 rubs that I found are big, but they're down there towards where that guy's hunting. So I decided to bail back off and go high, which is what I normally try to do, is stay on the higher side of things. And I started walking this just top of this ridge, basically just a big saddle ridge system, razorback. And I found that stand, so I'm gonna keep going deeper. That's all I can do. Basically, the boat is straight down below me here, and this ridge comes like this, and then it makes a horseshoe around, and that next ridge over, it looks like it's pretty open, and it's a big ridge system. It's like a 400, 500, 600 yard ridge system that appears to be a little open, and I'm just hoping that maybe all of this pressure has pushed some of those deer in that direction. So I'm gonna try to work my way there. It's about 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, somewhere in there. So got plenty of time. Just trying to find some sign, and then see if we can make something of the afternoon.